Zonta International once again presents the Remarkable Women Powerful Stories series webinar series, and I welcome you to my conversation today with Tahina Booth. Tahina is the CEO of the Grassroots project, Papua New Guinea. I'm Lynn Foley and truly privileged to speak with the remarkable women who are generous with their stories and their time. I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and also pay that respect to any First Nations people present today. Zonta International is a leading global organisation working together to build a better world for women and girls. So Tahina, I warmly welcome you today. It's wonderful to see you again.
Thank you, Lynn, and thank you for having me. And I'd like to pay my respects to First Nations people. I'm taking this call from Wulgurugaba and extend my acknowledgement and say thanks. So thank you for having me, Lynn.
It's indeed our pleasure, and we must both be in downtown Queensland, Australia. I can hear the morning magpies here as we're recording in the background of my world, so which is a beautiful sound. So just a short introduction, Tahina, as we roll into our conversation today. You're a distinguished athlete with a history of representing Papua New Guinea in Rugby League and Australia in Olympic weightlifting and powerlifting. And I know, and as your bio says, a fervent advocate for gender justice through sport. And your first-hand experience in the field reveals sport's unique capacity to foster societal change, inspiring you to establish the Grassroots project. There's so many other things you've done and awards you've won and sporting fame, as well as your work in not-for-profit. We'll reveal that during our conversation. So let's get going. I'm really keen to hear at the beginning where you came from, your origins and your early years, and how, over time, after lots of challenges in your early life, you found your way into sport. What do you think were your key influences during this time?
Gee, that's such a loaded question because there's so many life experiences that come with, everything that I've done so far. So I'm pretty young, and however, I started elite sport quite late, comparing to other people. And there's somewhat of a good story behind it. So I grew up in Papua New Guinea to the age of 9. And when I was living in PNG, I experienced sexual violence quite young. And however, what brought me, what gave me power was sport. Something that was taken away from my body, feeling myself, being able to think for myself, that was essentially ripped away, stolen from me. And through sport, I was able to regain my voice, regain my body, take control, and, most importantly, have my voice. So I realized quite young that, I was a really gifted athlete. It didn't matter what sport I played, I was really good at it. And growing up, I, just being a little bit angry, being unable to speak about the atrocities that happened to me quite young, I sheltered a lot of these, experiences because of fear. So being told if you tell anybody, what has happened, these people would hurt my family. And, so I was living my teenage years in fear. I was living my 20s in fear. And it wasn't until, I was in Australia that I was able to, access mental health care, that I started to realize, wow, I can't be blaming and living in the past. In order for me to, to heal and to move forward, it's up to me at the end of the day. And I was very fortunate to access this type of mental health care, here in Australia. And as, I started to heal, I started to really reflect upon who am I and what am I doing in the world to bring about positive change, and making those connections. It took some time, but I realized, wow, back home in PNG, my brothers and sisters, who I know 2 in 3 women are experiencing domestic and sexual violence, are not afforded the same opportunities to heal with professionals. And this really made me angry and sad because I know about the situation of what it's like in PNG. You know, it is classified as a third world country. And, you know, access to healthcare is almost impossible for a high majority of people back home. And sexual and domestic violence is absolutely rife. You know, every 30 seconds, a woman is being beaten by her husband or somebody that she knows. And so, you know, knowing these statistics, I realized it was sport for me. That's how I could connect with people. I just didn't know how to bridge the gap between sport and talking about GBV, but that's part of the story. So,
Yes.
and that's, how I've come to who I am today and the organization that I've created. So,
it's an amazing story of power, personal power to take yourself. Because if I remember rightly, when we first met, I think you told me that you moved from Papua New Guinea to Queensland, to Cairns, I think, when you're about 9. Is that right?
But no, we moved to Brisbane, and I
Brisbane,
finished
sorry.
I finished my primary school in Brisbane and went on to boarding school in Brisbane. The relocation up to Cairns didn't happen until, you know, sometime after.
Yeah, sorry, I've misremembered that part of your story, but so moving to Brisbane, and then you did secondary schooling also in Brisbane, I recall. So you had access to education when you were here in our state here in Queensland.
I had excellent access to education, but I was traumatized, you know, as a young person, you know, not being able to speak about, you know, what happened to me, and that really affected my schooling ability. You know, all my report cards from grade 3 onwards to grade 12 was all the same. My father, you know, we're having dinner one night, and I don't know, I think I had a bit of attitude or something like that, and he made a comment. He said, you know, and he didn't know at this point at what had happened to me.
Yes.
And it was kind of like the segue into, you know, the reason why my report card is the same. Like, you know, Tahina is a lovely young girl, but she talks too much. She's disruptive, you know, and it was never like I was never terrible, like a terrible student. I think I just caused a bit of, you know, disruption for other kids. But it was the same from grade 3 all the way to grade 12. Tahina has a lot of potential. She just needs to focus, you know, and that really made me realize, wow, this has affected me for my whole schooling life. And it made me also, you know, realize at that point, I have to tell my parents what happened. And that conversation didn't take place till I was about 26, 27. And so that's because, you know, by then, a few years before that, I started therapy and, you know, found ways in on how to address, you know, a lot of these traumas and PTSD, you know, that I was dealing with. And, you know, realized, wow, I can't sort of harbor this because it is literally killing me. And, you know, I'm closing out a lot of opportunities that I should definitely take advantage of, but I have no self-belief. I have no confidence, you know, because of what happened to me so young. And that's not the person who I want to be. I'm not that person, you know, and it's this gradual process, you know, and then getting back into sport where it accelerated my healing. And that's the power, you know, that physical exercise tripped something in my brain, and it made me just be more confident, get out there, give it a go. You know, and that's sort of where I'm at right now is, you know, that power to just keep forging, you know, to believe in yourself.
It's what comes to mind as you speak about that is, and your experiences at school, is that somehow throughout your very young life, you had a voice, and you had a powerful voice because it was being heard during school. It might have been heard in the way it's now heard today, but it was heard to the point where teachers referred to it in your report cards. You know, Tahina talks too much. She needs to focus. She's got lots of potential. So your voice was there, and you were using it. And maybe sports gave you the opportunity to channel it or do something different. that may not be the case, but that's just reflecting back to you what I've sort of heard today. It's very interesting and empowering to others. I always feel empowered when you talk to me about how you've come to where you are today. Can I get you to draw more on that healing journey and sport? You've made passing reference so far to how you rediscovered sport as an older young woman, if you can have an older young woman, but you know what I mean, a young woman who's a bit further down my pathway. Go with me on that. And you certainly have an entrepreneurial, more than a mindset now, you have entrepreneurial success. So can you talk us through that pathway of sport being discovered, if you like, and talk to us a fair bit about your sporting success in the end, because you've had significant success in 2 or 3 sports.
Yeah. So the only way I can really describe this is growing up in Papua New Guinea, we're an incredibly diverse country. So we have over 800 different languages. So you can imagine, like, you know, if you have a public health campaign, you can't just spit out one message. It's got to be translated. For me, sport is a language. It's a form of expression. You know, it's when I was unable to communicate with people, it was my body that was able to move and to my mind to think about strategy and, you know, the way how I learned how to make friends. I realized quite quickly how amazing those skills could transfer into business and, you know, strategy, leadership, putting ideas down, failing, but going back to the drawing board. You know, and so it was over the time I realized that I'm actually incredible. You know, growing up, I was told that I was stupid and dumb because, you know, I didn't get very good grades and I wasn't very good at math. But I realized through sport and through the application of, you know, trying and turning up to training every single day. And, you know, after a terrible loss or, you know, a failure to finish, I learned to go back to the drawing board. I learned that you don't stop, you just get smarter. So you just got to try different things. You know, you've got to really listen to your body. And, you know, regardless of what all the science and everything else out there, you know, states, you've actually got to center yourself. And at the end of the day, you're the one that's stepping out to that platform or to that field or, you know, going into a final. You can have all the training you want in the world, but at the end of the day, it comes down to you, you know, and how you prepare for it. And that's the bridge that I found in this healing part, was that I was constantly working on myself. You know, you don't go to therapy 1 or 2 or 3 times and then you're healed. You know, it's a constant evolution. You know, and that's the beautiful thing that I discovered for myself, you know, is that I can have a really terrible day or I just want to give up. But it was the application of sport that taught me to keep going back and to keep evolving, you know, and to keep pushing, you know. So it sport really gave me my confidence and my voice, you know. And when I talk, you know, like, you know, having an entrepreneurial mindset, like, you know, what does that actually mean? That's exactly it. It's being consistent, you know, it's going back to the drawing board and trying again. You know, you need to have a bit of recovery, you know, just like in sport, you've got to have your, you know, your 8, 9 hours sleep or however long you need it for you. Nutrition, looking after yourself, but the mental health part, the self-belief, that's something that, you know, is integral to achieving success.
Yes,
So
and sorry, go on.
No, sorry, you go.
I was going to just draw from you through a question of what do you think were the 1 or 2 key achievements in the sport world, in the sporting world, when you were actively playing those sports at a high level that you're most proud of? What do you think 1 or 2 of, because you were You were involved in powerlifting at one stage. You're involved in rugby league, etc. What do you think are the one or two standouts for you?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind was I absolutely loved the lifestyle. I loved that there were milestones to work towards. I loved the strategy of, understanding the training blocks. I love doing the hard work. It's the process, and then, seeing the end result. I just love that whole process. And so that, because I really felt like I was in a team. So going from like powerlifting, which is an individual sport, but you have a whole team behind you. You've got your physios, you've got your trainers, you've got the gyms. Being a woman too, you're not being paid. So you've got to do your own sponsorship. You're actually running a small business, in order to get to the top. It was probably that part of where in that journey where I learned about sponsorship and how to market myself to local businesses in order to, get something that I needed, whether it was my protein or, vegetables or, whatever it was. I learned the power, of marketing oneself, but telling one story, the journey. That's probably, and it's not to say to diminish, what I did in this like sports area, but it was the back end stuff that I really enjoyed. How do I make, if I know that my coaching fees are going to be like, 5,000, for example, well, what can I do on the sponsorship side that takes care of that? Like that was fun for me. And a lot of people find that, I mean, it would be nice to be a fully paid athlete, which is great to see that that's happening now for women, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But I found for me that was actually amazing that I could do that at the same time, because I was realistic. I knew that I was 20, 28, 29, that I only had probably, another 3, 4, 5 years at best, before I was, won't be able to compete with the others. So I had to think, what's after this? Because I do not want to fall into depression. I do not want to be on the suicide watch list, because that is all too common for elite athletes after their career. I had to make sure that I was looking forward to something after sport. And so it was a balancing act, competing at elite levels, but also at the same time working on a passion project, so I had that developing. Was I burning the candle at both ends? Absolutely. So I get A+ for that. I'm very good at that. But, it's because I knew this is what I wanted to do,
So picking up that enterprise side of your life, because we've spent a fair bit of time in the sport and how that's brought you to perhaps the woman you are today out of very unfortunate and difficult circumstances as a young woman or a young girl. What was the motivation to give back and to pay forward into your birth country of Papua New Guinea?
Oh, my heart is PNG. Our people are beautiful people, like beautiful people. And I know this is going out into the world, but please come to Papua New Guinea. It is an absolutely remarkable, amazing place. Our women are the absolute heartbeat of the country. They get stuff done. They run the country, but we're not recognized in a way. We are not seen as equal, even though our forefathers in our constitution, essentially said that we should all be seen equal and have equal participation, that we should all be able to contribute, grow, and be part of the development. That is not the case in PNG. Women are seen as second class. And so knowing this, really, there was a burning desire to go back home and to do what I know. And that's to use sport to engage, with people.
Mm.
And I really wanted to engage with men and boys, to have these discussions around domestic and sexual violence. And, at first, I wasn't too sure how to do that. I reached out to a few international organizations and, didn't get much luck with them. And I was trying to find organizations that were using sport as the entry point to speak with men and boys, around domestic and sexual violence. And I just couldn't find anything. And, I shared this idea with a very, very good friend of mine. She's one of my best mates, Dr. Sophia Bartlett. And she essentially said, like, whatever it is that you want to do, I'll support in what capacity I can. And her background is she's a research scientist with hepatitis, eradicating hepatitis. And, so with her public health knowledge and background, we sort of teamed up and started quite small, just collecting sports equipment, put a social media post out and it went viral. We ended up collecting so much gear. It was not funny. It worked out to be almost like 40 shipping containers worth. And it grew from there. We started sending equipment all around PNG to some of the most remote places where it's only accessible by boat. You can't drive there. And it was coaches that were reaching out, saying that they would love this, equipment. And so we realized quite quickly that we were filling some gaps. Communities were unable to access equipment. And about 99% of people that were reaching out to me directly were male coaches. And so straight away we knew, we have a captive audience. And this is where we started to, think, well, how do we now start to integrate and weave GBV programs directly to these male coaches and their community, and over the years, it's been trial and error. We've run some amazing programs, but what we've got now is we've got a big sports event, Hevea Cup and Wellness Expo, which is more around like awareness and linking up with different health partners. That has been incredibly successful. We've had over 10,000 people, come to this event over the last couple of years, ranging from children, because it's parents that bring their kids into the event to watch the rugby league and visit these different health partners. And then our other program is our Gymbox program, which is a really cool idea that was born out of, taking gym equipment and fitting it into a 20-foot shipping container. And then the idea was the container can be dropped, anywhere in community. We've got one, we've actually just closed the one that we've got now because we're redeveloping, and we've got some new designs. But that particular gym, the engagement is boys, girls, men, women, it's the whole community coming to use it, which is fantastic because, it's not only addressing GBV with our different partnerships, but we're tackling non-communicable diseases head on, which is also another big killer, in our communities, like diabetes, so it's just growing, like the programs that we've been doing. And out of this as well, we've realized now that we've got this captive audience of men, and boys, how do we channel in GBV education, leadership education? How do we get them to understand that you know, some of these traditional held belief systems and attitudes are very harmful towards women, you know, and so we've designed a curriculum in partnership with Dr. Shannon Spriggs Murdoch at Texas University through the Institute of Social Justice and Sport to design, you know, co-design a curriculum that we've delivered, you know, in Port Moresby. So we've just finished that pilot last year, and we're now wanting to run a second pilot just to refine a lot of the learnings from that first one. But the success rate is incredible. You know, these young men and boys, and the girls as well, because everything we do is always equal, start the program with very strong beliefs that women belong in the kitchen, essentially. You know, that if they don't finish their education, that's okay, because you know, their role is to rear children. By the end of it, completely different scenario. They are questioning, wow, why did I think that way? And women should absolutely have a job and contribute to the household income. You know, and yes, they can run for a leadership position if they want to be in parliament, or if they want to, you know, take on a role in as a CEO or whatever it is, you know. And so it's interesting because these young people, they're 13, 14, 15, and they have these really strong belief systems, you know. And so that's where, you know, we come in at the crux of it is we're able to engage these young kids, you know, through the Gymbox or through a Hevea Cup and Wellness Expo, and promote, you know, this 10 million strong leadership program. I probably should have said that's what the program is called, 10 million strong.
And it's a lofty goal, isn't it? I did say to you, it's more than a bold, audacious goal. It's a scary good goal about, what is it, 10 million leaders by, you have a catchphrase. Would you like to share that with us?
Yeah. So we've actually rewritten our mission and our vision. But essentially, like, you know, our vision really is to see every person in Papua New Guinea, you know, where they have the right to belong, contribute, and grow, you know. And our mission is to empower 1 million leaders by 2050 through sports, you know, cultivating an entrepreneurial mindset, because we want to see people like live in stronger, more equitable communities. And we want people to feel like they're part of the winning team, you know. So it is a big goal, but it's something that we believe is achievable, you know, in the next couple of years. And how we're going to do it is through the schooling system and the church system, you know, so working in partnership, you know, with both. And that's how we're going to get our 1 million leaders. You know, I see lots of things in PNG News that, you know, that says the youth of today, they're the biggest problem. The youth are not the problem. It's the leadership of the country. That's the problem, you know. And the way that it is, that the corruption is so strong that it unfortunately permeates to every level of society, you know. And from what we see on the ground, our youths are amazing. They are absolutely amazing people. They all want to grow, they all want to contribute, and they want to belong, you know. And so half the issue is there aren't any programs out there, you know, for them to do. And this is an opportunity and a gateway, you know, to them feeling like they can do something, you know. So
do you think it's also related to the lack of jobs for them to look forward to do? They can't see where the jobs are going to be in their own country. And if there's a lot of inbuilt societal norms that aren't serving the country and its people well, then the young people become the people who receive that, and then consequently behaviours and some of the things that we see where youth are doing the wrong things grow out of that. And I'm with you. The youth of today are amazing. The young people of today are amazing. They're our future, and the work you're doing through the Grass Skirt Project in particular, not the least of which in all the rest of the things you do, is to build that resilience. I think it's smart and impressive that you're working with men and boys as well as girls, women and girls. And in the Grass Skirt Project, I know you came to that, as you just explained to us, through a whole lot of different ways in your life. You did talk to me about having a particular mentor or another woman who lifted you up to take you there. Can you talk us a little bit about that mentoring relation and how special it was?
Well, actually, yeah, my first mentor was Dr. Sophia Bartlett, who's also co-founder of Grass Skirt Project. This was really my introduction to, like, I'd never really understood, the relationship of mentor-mentee. It wasn't until, meeting Soph. And, in those moments where I really didn't have self-belief or anything like that, or it would run away, she would quickly put me in my place and, with a very gentle, firm hand, guide me to the right path. And yeah, I realized the importance of mentorship, but also empathy and listening and creating a safe space. Because I think for people that have been affected by trauma, you do the rejection, when things don't go your way, I feel like it's tenfold, and I think so also understanding that really helped me sort of, I don't want to say grow a thicker skin, but I just became smarter in how I dealt with things. And over the years, I've had many mentors that I can call on. Actually, I've got so many. It's not funny. And, these are people that I call on for all different types of things, and I can't recommend that enough to anyone out there. There's nothing wrong with having more than 15 or 20, depending on what it is that you're needing. But it's just being very clear with that relationship and, what the expectations are. So
are you finding in your work with young women in particular, through the Grass Skirt Project, that mentoring is also helping them along their way to build that courage and confidence and the resilience, and that they can see a different world for themselves?
100%. When you see a woman or somebody from your community that gets up and stands up and speaks, at first it's a little bit shocking because it's going against the grain, right? But deep down inside, it's the right thing, and so mentoring, especially at a grassroots, level, in PNG is unheard of, and it's hard to find. There certainly aren't any programs out there that encourage, the mentor-mentee relationship. It's probably more in your corporate, world. But at a grassroots level, it's there isn't a lot out there, unless it's more of the traditional, people within the village taking up a role, and young people can go and speak to them. So it's incredibly important in order to change people's perceptions, on women, to change their attitudes and behaviors. It's having that big brother, big sister, that can create that safe space, where it becomes a sacred space where you can openly ask questions. No question's a silly question except for the one you didn't ask, and so that's what we're doing, is creating those safe spaces, so these kids can come in and start talking. There's not a lot of places where you can do this.
Find your voice and practice using it.
And we have to assume that every kid that comes and joins our program has trauma with them, because we know the stats are so horrific. you know, and so we're trauma informed, you know, so we understand that you're coming with a story, you know, and we're not going to be pointing any fingers or, you know, telling you that your experience is less than or anything like that. You know, it's not about that. It's about creating a supportive structure so that people can be heard, you know, so they can listen, so we can listen, you know, and from there grow together. Yeah, it's really about healing.
Can I ask you now, you know, we have a few minutes left, but what do you think are your greatest leadership gifts or your personal and leadership gifts at this time in your life? What do you think they are?
Oh, I get stuff done. You know, I'm not prepared to come up with an idea and not execute. Like, you know, I love that whole process. Like just like with my training and, you know, that whole going through the planning, the strategy, the execution. I love coming up with an idea and, you know, executing that idea. So yeah, maybe that's my greatest you know, leadership trait, but you know, I feel also too that I'm now moving into like, you know, more public speaking and putting myself out there a little bit more. But actually, I haven't really thought about that. You've got me on the spot. So,
well, that's all right.
You know,
it's okay to have you on the spot. You can take it away and reflect. But that leadership gift, yes, you get stuff done. I wonder if I can be audacious to suggest it might be about that courage, the courage you have and the boldness you have to just strike out to do what you believe needs to be done and just do it. You said earlier you enjoyed almost the pain of training. You enjoyed training. You enjoyed reaching the goal. You enjoyed being in a team. And I hear courage, so I don't know whether that's what you see as part of your gift, but I'll give that to you. That's my gift to you.
Thank you. Well, I'll take that.
Okay, so I'm going to just ask that broad question. I know you're a global, involved a little in the Commission on the Status of Women, the NGO CSW, and because that's how I discovered you. And we are in the season leading up to the Commission on the Status of Women, the UN Commission in New York in March. And I was wondering about your views on gender more broadly. Our whole discussion's been about gender and lifting women up and changing societal norms. What's your view? Many of us feel we're going backward globally or regressing, and there's a lot of work still to go in the gender equity space. Have you got a couple of views to share towards the end of this lovely conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a message for the passive men out there. Do not be passive, because being passive is silence, and silence is harmful. You know, so we need more men who are in these positions of power to stand up and to speak, because your silence tells all your friends and your peers that it's okay at how things are, and it's not. You know, so men in power, if your company or your business or your sports team or your club is not encouraging more women into positions, is not changing policies to make it more women friendly, is like, you know, if you don't have policies that allow women to, you know, take maternity leave and get paid. The same, men should be getting paid as well for maternity leave. This is my belief. You know, we need to keep that family unit strong. Like, do something, change it, you know, have a backbone. That is probably my biggest thing, is when I see passive men in these positions, it irks me, because you're part of the problem. You know, and if there's one thing that it's probably when I see people that are passive, that don't want to, you know, and rock the boat, or, you know, we don't have any time for that. People are dying, you know,
every day, so, every second, every moment. And women, we talk about it all the time, about the number of women in families through family violence, let alone other violence, and you've experienced some recently in Papua New Guinea, just in recent days. So I know it's incredibly different, and passivity is what stalls passivity in us as women and in men. So that's a great message for us all to hear, Tahina, and you're doing the very heavy lifting, if I may go back to your roots as a powerlifter. You're doing a lot of heavy lifting in that space, and it's up to the rest of us to take up that heavy lifting with you, both men and women. What's next? I know you've got some powerful dreams for and reality for grass skirts, your Gymbox. So you've got a minute to wrap that up and leave with our audience the next for you. And I know you're chasing some sponsorship and all sorts of things for your not-for-profit, but just a piece about the very next piece.
Yeah, well, in order for us to engage, 1 million people by 2050, what we're wanting to do is, build these gyms, these gym boxes. So out of these gyms, our 10 million strong leadership curriculum runs out of it. And we need to raise about 200,000 Australian dollars because we want to get a few of these gyms out into different places, to test them in different locations. We've done our first prototype, has been incredibly successful, but it's not built to take any more people that we're currently receiving. So it had regular attendance between 150 people, in the community coming to the gym. But like I said, it's not built to scale. So we've got a new design, which I'd love to share, with you. If I could send that to you to put on the link, that would be great. But yeah, we're looking to raise 200,000 Australian dollars to build a few of these gyms and to have them in PNG. So that's my call to action, and how we're going to engage, 1 million youth leaders by 2050.
What's your personal message to the people watching today? A short, succinct message or thought?
You are amazing, regardless of your traumas or regardless of the experiences that have shaped you. How you are today is how you're meant to be. So if you want to be amazing, you are amazing, and it happens. It really does, but that should not define you.
Tahina, you're an amazing, remarkable woman. Today, I'm inspired. I'm starting my day as you are on Friday, and it's I'm overwhelmed. So I've got tears. I've got the whole response to our discussion today. I thank you on behalf of Science International for your contribution today, for the time you've given me in preparation and being with us today. Go forward and do the most amazing work. And I trust that many of us will go with you. So thank you.
Thank you, Auntie Lynn, and thank you to all the viewers out there. And it's been a pleasure. So thank you.